Through Ice Blossoms, I'm on a mission to spread Korean desserts to the world.
Hello, welcome to the Take 1.5 podcast. This is your host, Min Lee. We have Jennifer Lee from Rice Blossoms, New York, here with us today. I love dog. I see that your creations are so beautiful and delicate.
Thank you.
I'm really excited about what you do and how you do it.
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm the founder and creator of Rice Blossoms. Through Ice Blossoms, I'm on a mission to spread Korean desserts to the world with a modern twist. So it's more pleasant looking and more approachable to the younger generations.
How did you get started?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a long story, but long story short, so I have an interior design background and I was a designer as a working mom for some time. But then I kind of needed some time off. I had a chance to visit Korea with my family at that time, and I was just looking for things to do. And I was taking a lot of fun classes that were offered in Korea, like flower arrangement, cooking, or baking. And they had rice cake making classes, and I absolutely fell in love with it. So this was about 8 years ago, and I was living in LA at that time. And so once our vacation was over, we came back home to LA and I just continued making rice cakes for fun. I wanted to share it with my friends and family, our neighbors. So it was a busy hobby at first. And then a lot of people were continuing to ask, and some event planners were asking. It eventually became a business. And it's been 7 years now.
What part of rice cake making did you fall in love with?
Yeah, so well, I grew up eating rice cakes, of course. So a little story is that my mom would always bring back rice cakes from the markets every time she goes to the grocery store. And I would always eat these like injarmi. That was like my mom's favorite, so it became my favorite too. And whenever there's leftovers, she would freeze them, and then the next day she would like pan fry it and like we'll dip it with sugar or honey and eat it. So I have a lot of memories eating rice cakes, and another favorite of mine was the mujigaetok, the rainbow one, because it's so pretty, and I always like to pick on the pink color especially. But so I was always familiar with rice cakes, and whenever I would visit Korea, growing up, my grandma, my 할머니, she would make like songpyeon for Chuseok, or just like whenever we're gathering, she would be making duck with us. So I have like a fond memory of that. Like while I was taking the class, like started remembering all these memories that I forgot about. So I had rice cakes growing up, but then in high school or college when I'm alone, like I forgot about rice cakes for some time. And so when I took the classes, it brought up all these memories that I had. And so it was very like heartwarming, I guess, when I was taking the classes. And it reminded me of my grandma a lot too, which, so she passed away. And so that was very nice. And another thing that or two more things that I actually fell in love with is that the ingredients were really simple. Because I was taking baking classes at the same time, so you can compare, right? So in baking, there's a lot of sugar and butter and oil that goes in there, but with rice cakes, it's literally just rice flour and water and some sugar. And so, and my daughter was pretty young at that time, so I felt like it was a really healthy dessert. So I loved that part of it as well. And then the second part is honestly the flour piping using bean paste was just very mind-blowing for me at that time. Because I love using my hands, and I think I really fell in love with the piping part of it. Um, the piping, I think when you think of piping is usually done in buttercream, but I'm not a big fan of buttercream. So I think using bean paste to pipe flowers was very fascinating to see. And at first, I actually did not like the first class because it was really hard because there's a lot of pressure that goes in there, and it's very tricky to pipe and look it nice, right? So I didn't like it at first, but then my second class, something about it, just like I got, it was very therapeutic, and so I fell in love with it. And so that night is when I bought all the tools, and I started piping every single night after my daughter would go to bed at like 9 o'clock. And so I would find myself piping till like 2 a.m. And I was like obsessed with it. And then also making pekseolgi. I had an obsession over that to like figure out the right consistency and all that. So um, yeah, that's like all the aspects that I loved about learning. And so here I am.
You made a pivot from being an interior designer to a totally different
Yeah.
industry, right? A business. Were you scared to make the pivot? What do you think?
Um, so for my journey, it was pretty organic, but it was hard for sure. I thought I was just gonna take a break, and just kind of and eventually go back to interior design. But that trip to Korea for 2 months when I was kind of free to do a lot of things, and when I found rice cakes and came back home, like interior design was just not in my head anymore. And
Mm,
so like just a busy hobby eventually became a business because it was going so well, and I was like, okay, I need to make this legit and make sure I can like legally spread it more, to the community. And so I think honestly, I didn't know what I was really doing. I still don't think I know what I'm doing, to be honest. But
mhm,
uh, if I'm gonna do this, what do I need? So I just kept like figuring it out as I go,
mhm.
which is why like it's hard, but it's also exciting at the same time. Um, so I think for me, it was challenging, but I enjoyed the challenge at
Mhm.
that time. Maybe it's because I was younger.
Mhm.
I don't know if I will
Maybe.
enjoy it now. If I had to pivot to something else,
Mm,
I probably wouldn't enjoy as much. But I think because I started it in my like early to mid 30s, so I still
mhm,
had the energy to like learn something new and
mhm,
get excited. Um, and seeing people's reaction just always just kept me going. And then I had a really great team to start with. So
mhm.
I had great teams to support Rice Blossoms and kind of push it through with me at that time. So, yeah, it was definitely a pivot for sure. I'm still learning new things every week, I would say, like every month. There's always something that comes up that I don't know what to do with. So
Yeah,
I always have to just research and ask
yeah.
people.
You're learning and growing. I could see the aesthetic in your
Yeah.
work. Your interior design background comes in there, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Like on the cake, right?
Hmm,
Maybe
hmm, hmm.
a little bit.
For sure, because I love dog, and like
Mm-hmm.
you, I grew up eating dog with my family, and
Mm-hmm.
my mom loved injure me, and my dad too.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was the most served in our
Mm-hmm.
household. And my kids grew up eating dog because, I mean, I got that from my parents, and then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
passed down to my
Yeah.
children. And when my kids were younger, we used to make injure me at home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We would eat
Nice.
it together and then cut
Uh-huh.
it and then put it in the
Yeah.
bean powder.
Yeah.
Right? 콩고물?
Yeah. 콩고물. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Soybean powder. Yes.
Yes, yes. So that was our activity,
Yeah.
instead of Play-Doh.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's playing like Play-Doh for sure. Edible
Uh-huh.
Play-Doh. I
Uh-huh.
always say that to my girls too. So I have two girls. They're 9 and 6 at the moment, but they love making songpyeon. They've
Mm,
seen me making it since they were babies, right? So they're actually really good now. Like they can actually make a lot of the shapes that I make. Of course, like not perfectly, but it's still very good for
mhm,
their age. And so they're very precise and they love making songpyeon with me. Or so when I'm working, sometimes I'll just give them some dough to make on their own.
mhm,
And then when they're done, I'll steam it for them so they can eat it.
mhm.
So I think compared to a lot of other Koreans that are their age, they love duck. Um, they love
Right.
duck because they've been eating duck forever with me or because of me. So yeah, I'm carrying down the cultural and like our own heritage aspect of it to our
Yeah, that's
kids.
so cool. That's so cool. I mean, dog is such a traditional dessert
It is.
food, right? And
Yeah.
then for someone like you, 1.5 generation or second
Hmm.
generation, to keep it and like
Hmm.
build up a business
Right.
based on it and modernizing it and
Hmm.
like spreading the word. That's awesome. How did you get started on that business?
Oh, I also felt like Korean desserts were disappearing because a lot of the like the 떡집s or like 방앗간, I guess is what you
Mm-hmm.
would say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the older people were starting the business, I feel like a lot of their children that are now adults doesn't want to do that because it's not a very sexy business in a
Mm-hmm.
way. Because when I was thinking of it becoming a business, I knew it was going to be like early mornings on the weekends or like the weekdays, um, which was fine. But I also felt like because Korean desserts were disappearing or like rice cake bakeries were disappearing, if I could come in and kind of revive that, I felt like it would be good for the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with that mindset, I think I just kept going. And I love seeing people's reaction. There, because they'll be like, "Oh, 떡이 어떻게 이렇게 예쁠 수가 있어요?"
Mm-hmm.
So like hearing that just made me so happy all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And I also nowadays feel like because Korean culture is becoming such a popular
Yeah.
thing, it's like so trendy. Like everything about Korea is trendy,
Right.
which I think timing also is great for me now too, since I have a little bit of a base, kind of set up.
Mm.
And so I'm just hoping Korean desserts can also become really popular one day. And I feel like it is kind of happening, especially with
Mm.
tteokbokki at first.
Mm.
It's still pretty foreign to a lot of non-Koreans, um, but it's slowly getting there, I think.
The texture of duck is very strange, I think, to the
Mm,
Westerners, right? Because I
mm-hmm,
remember when my daughter's like tultak, I
mm-hmm.
passed down to some of my coworkers at the office,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Oh, I
Ooh,
could
what
tell
is?
that they were like too crazy about the
Yeah,
texture."
yeah, yeah.
But now probably there's like duck cafes,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's becoming even more popular with not only Koreans or Asians, but the mainstream market, would you
Uh-huh.
say? Yeah,
Yeah,
I see.
for sure.
I'm just like wondering because any business, you have to make money. How long did it take you to be lucrative?
Well, I don't want to say if I'm very lucrative right now. No, not at all. I think
But
rice
yeah.
cake, yeah, I don't think it's people who do rice cake, they don't do it to make money. I think it's
Mm,
because they just love it.
mm,
You just have to love what you do to continue this because I don't have a factory, for an example. Like I don't have like the 방앗간 and all
like
those big machines.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm,
I can't mass produce.
mm-hmm,
And mass producing rice cakes versus handmade rice cakes, they taste different. So
mm,
my thing is to keep it boutique and small and just make it as we go. And of course, like along the way, I always went back and forth. Do I open up a brick and mortar and get all
mm,
those machines and do
mm,
all that? There was a lot of thought process happening along the way, but I think at the end, I'm just happy keeping it boutique and making it all handmade, just because you don't find you can't find a lot of handmade rice cakes
mm,
anywhere really, because it's either like frozen ones from H Mart or if you're lucky living in a big city where they have 떡집, that's where you can go and get it.
mm,
So for me, I think keeping it handmade is very crucial, like for the taste as well, which is why it's not like crazy lucrative. It's a lot of labor of love and a lot of
mm,
time and effort that goes into it.
mm,
Um, but for me, my goal was never to like make big money out off of rice cakes, to be
mm,
honest. It is what it is for now. But
mm,
of course, I'm not going to be losing money doing this,
mm,
So,
mm.
and now I think I'm just happy with two part-timers and myself kind of going as we go. That was a
So
lot of TMI, but
no, it's interesting because I mean, people are like thinking about some sort of business. So I'm always interested in like the process. So, what is your duck making process? What is that like?
yeah, so we get our fresh rice flour, so
Hmm.
I pick up like big batches, depending on how much I need. So usually a lot of our orders happen on the weekends because there's a lot of, birthdays or celebrations or events on the weekends. So we'll prepare like the flour piping part or like the songpyeons or like gyeongdan, whatever. We roll out the dough or make the dough in the throughout the week. And then on the day of the event is when I steam the 백설기 part or I'll steam the songpyeon on the day of because rice cakes only last 12 hours, so everything needs to get steamed on the day of. But a lot of the packaging or like the dough making part, like we do it throughout the week and keep it frozen.
Oh.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty crazy in the mornings. Everything is made to order. And we
Ah.
always ask people to order at least 3 weeks in advance so we can
Mhm.
plan things out.
Your mission is to make this known, this Korean traditional part of the dessert.
Hmm.
How do you do that
Yeah,
way?
so two things. I think one thing is by actively doing workshops, because I think workshops is where people come together and by making songpyeon or like pigsalgi or like flower piping, it's like a communal thing. So and back in the days when women or like the 할머nis and the moms would gather to make songpyeon, we're all like gathering and sitting around chit-chatting and gossiping while we're
Mm-hmm.
making songpyeon. So it's like a communal activity. So by providing workshops, I want to remind people of that too. So that's another like thing that I always say before the workshop. It's like the communal aspect of it. So I feel like workshop is one thing that I also kind of carry that part throughout. And then another thing, but by spreading is like being active on social media and just like always constantly sharing and sharing more information, not only pictures, but trying. I want to be more informative. That's one thing that I am lacking at the moment with my socials. But with the captions and like descriptions, I try to always add in some informative stuff too,
Mm-hmm.
so they can kind of read about it and just get familiar, just become more familiar with rice cakes through our social, I think
Mm-hmm.
is kind of what we're also working towards. And by doing that, I think sometimes we're lucky enough to get picked up by media. We can be on in articles or, some other channels.
Well, I saw I think you were on Channel 7 News.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been on maybe like two, three like small segments,
Mm-hmm.
luckily enough. But they're all local
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I got to share my products.
That's good. I mean, you are in a big city with
Yeah.
lots of different people. What do you think people find interesting about dog these days?
I think it's just because people are generally just so interested in Korean culture these days. Organically, they come and get to see it. But I also think because a lot of the new moms also love. I mean, they should. We all celebrate our kids' first birthday party, right? Like in a big,
Mm-hmm.
nice way. Traditionally, there's always duck, right? So the moms will always order duck on the dessert table or as party favors or whatnot, and just because they see this modern version of it to kind of elevate their dessert table. And then some moms, I'm lucky enough for them to return to me for their like next baby's birthday, or like now some moms are ordering for their kids like school, like for example like Lunar New Year celebration or like Chuseok, or because it's kind of proud to be Korean these days
Mm-hmm.
more than ever. So I think the moms are also trying to share it with their schools as well, and so
Mm-hmm.
they just and sharing is caring. So
Yeah, you're so right. People are proud to be Korean these days,
yeah.
proud to
Hmm.
be associated with Korean
Hmm.
culture somehow these days. What do you think about that as a 1.5 generation?
I think it's great, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a small town in Indiana where there were like barely any Koreans. I think at school there was only like six Koreans from what I remember, and there was like 400 or 500 students.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember like making sure not to eat kimchi in the
Mm-hmm.
morning or even at night sometimes because I didn't want the smell to kind of be on me.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll eat it on the weekends, or I might skip a whole week without kimchi. But now, like I have to have kimchi like every other day. Back then, it was a little bit more of a, I don't want to say shameful, but it was a little bit um, I don't want to say embarrassing either, but I
No,
don't know what
it
the
is
right word is.
true.
But I guess
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people did feel that way, and I
Mm-hmm.
did too at some point.
Yep. Yep.
Or like growing up, I did, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Until like I think in college when I was very like more confident about myself, I think that's when I was like, oh, I'm like proud to be Korean. I'm just gonna speak Korean anywhere all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, like when I was like working for corporate and I'm like the only Korean, the Korean side of me disappears again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like trying to act like Korean American more, like more American.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I became a mom and like the Korean, like being Korean is kind of cool these days, like I'm just like more proud and like happy. And but through Rice Blossoms, I'm able to like share more of that as well. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been very good, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. And I'm sure all the Koreans feel that way too. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it's
for
good.
sure, I know you say you don't want to say embarrassing or shameful, but I think it's true. I think growing up, we did feel embarrassed being Korean
Mm,
or
yeah.
just being different, right? Just being the
Mm,
non-white.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Was a big deal. I mean, when you're
Mm-hmm.
little, all you want is to fit in, to be
Yeah,
like the rest, right? But just
yeah,
sticking out like that, one of six students in a 400
yeah.
student school, I mean, you don't want to be that person. So yeah,
Yeah.
totally understand.
I
Yeah.
remember like dyeing my hair yellow one day and my dad
Mm,
hated it. And I also like tried to like color my eyebrows like light
uh-huh.
brown too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I yeah, vividly remember
Yeah.
that
Don't we?
hairstyle.
Yes. Don't we all know that, right? With the maybe the color context.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yes, the blonde stage.
Mm-hmm. Not anymore.
Yeah, we all go through that. It's so
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
And yes, like you, I'm so happy that children nowadays are proud to be Korean, proud to
Mm-hmm.
have that different or that unique cultural experience,
Mm-hmm.
not just the white American way.
Right, right.
As you are a 1.5 or second generation Korean American living in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and your work is to promote this very traditional part of Korean food. It's such an amazing picture for me to see.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. That means a
yeah.
lot. Yeah. Thank you. I love what I do.
Mm,
As a home baker making rice cakes, I remember that in LA when I first started. So I wasn't the only one. There
mm,
were some other people doing that too, but because it's hard, a lot of them actually disappeared. So I don't think there's a lot of them left doing
mhm.
it as much as before. I just hope more people will start doing rice cakes again.
There's so many I see nowadays cooking Korean food on
Hmm.
Instagram and
Right.
promoting. So it's wonderful. I
Great to
think
be a
it's good.
part of it.
Yes, it is. And good timing for us.
Yes.
I know you do some workshops. Do you see Korean Americans bringing their children, the second or third generation Koreans?
Yeah, so I sometimes have moms come into our workshop with their children. And I do like private workshops where it's like mommy and me sessions too,
Mm,
at like somebody's home, for example. And like I would travel with all our tools and kits. And so those have been pretty great. Like I don't do too many mommy and me classes, but I definitely see that
mm,
because they see me doing it with my kids too. And so like some of the friends will get together to make an event for
mm,
their kids. And I also work through the Korean Cultural Center here in New York, the
mhm,
KCCNY. So they do like family day activity kind of things. We just did one for Lunar New Year. So they invited me to do the workshop for the families. Stock that we don't have to steam on site, so they can. We made like paramtok before or like gosambyang, stuff like that, where you can just like stamp or like roll and make it pretty and then just eat it right away.
how
So
fun.
yay!
When is your next event?
We have another collaborative workshop with a clothing designer brand in March. She's having her new collection like showcase with friends and VIP clients. And so I will be doing some live piping on the side and give it to them with like Pixargi, or they can also pipe with me too. So it'll be like a live station on the side. So that'll be a fun activity. And then we have a couple more workshops planned for March and April.
I love it
They
when we could collab together.
Yeah, yeah, I love collaborating too. It
Mm,
just brings
mhm,
like good synergy and energy.
mhm,
and it works really well. Oh, one more thing I could add is that I have a lady in Honolulu working as Rice Blossom. So she also trained with us intensively a couple years ago, and she started about 2 years ago, I think, in Honolulu as a home baker making rice cakes as well. So she does workshops once in a while too. So if you follow her, Rice Blossoms underscore HI, Hawaii, there's some updates there. And I am also traveling to Honolulu in April with Alan from Noshibojagi to do another collaborative joint workshop. So
Oh,
we'll
so
be there
nice.
for like 5 days to do that
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal side of your story?
Yeah, so I'm kind of from all over the place. I was born in Korea, but I did all my early childhood in Wisconsin, and then I did a little bit of elementary and part of middle school in Korea for about 5 years in total. And then I went back to Indiana and did all my high school there. And then I went to Texas for college. And then I went to LA in my 20s to work. I also moved to Singapore for 2 years to work. And then back in LA, or Orange County to be exact. And then we moved to the East Coast 3.5 years ago. So pretty, kind of new still, but I feel like I'm at home now.
Yeah.
We're all adjusted in the East Coast with the weather and everything. Yeah. I've been like all over the place. So growing
Truly.
up in, yeah, growing up in the Midwest, I would say, like I mentioned earlier, there weren't that many Asians. So I tried to be more, um, I tried to be more American in a way, I guess, when I was little. When I did see more Koreans in college, I think I bonded immediately with all the Koreans there and was just not feeling embarrassed or ashamed anymore and was just like a proud Korean starting then. And then when I was working in LA, I think there was still like half of me were like trying to feel more American at work because my bosses were all American. But that I think working in such a white environment was hard for me now that I think of it because you have to like climb the corporate ladder in a way. And I think that's why once I became a mom, like I just didn't want to do that anymore. And so I needed a break from work, like corporate world. And I think that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop for some time and then figure out my next steps. But in high school, everybody's going through puberty, and I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. Like, am I Korean? Am I American? Like it's like you're so in between, especially me when you're like 1.5. I think it's more like you're not really American, but when I visit Korea, I don't feel Korean either. So there was a lot of that, and I still feel that sometimes. But I think nowadays, like through Rice Blossoms, I'm like prouder than ever being Korean, and so I always say I'm more Korean than American sometimes. Yeah, so it's always like going back and forth. So I think it does kind of create some confusion internally. And I just live with that confusion.
Yes,
And it's like at the end, it is just what it is to me.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think so. I think yes. I think it is what it is. We live with the
Mm-hmm.
confusion and
Yeah.
conflict,
Mm-hmm.
constant conflict.
Yeah.
And again, as a mom, what do I want to pass down to my children
Yeah. Yeah.
culturally and ethnically? Feel like I'm confused. I don't even know what, but that's what it is. That's the beauty of 1.5 generation
Yeah.
period, the confusion, that in between, that
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
uncomfortableness, right? Like always
Yeah.
kind of like in between somewhere,
Yeah, it's
in
like
and
in
out
Korea.
of this.
Yeah, it's like they say like 이것도 아니고
Mm,
저것도 아닌데, but
mm,
then on the good part, the good
mm-hmm.
side is that then you can kind of blend in to both areas too.
That's right. Yeah,
So there's pros and cons, I guess.
that's right. And I think you're right. I think until we get to a certain age, like college or beyond, we just live with that uncomfortableness and that
Yeah.
embarrassment of like, I don't even know who I am. Like, I don't even know
Mm-hmm.
where I belong. You just come to terms with it and
Yes,
accept and
yes. Just it is what it
embrace.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, good. And that's what we want to promote in this channel. We're talking to 1.5 generations. We want to share more. So when we hear from others, you know that you are not the only ones who
Yes,
felt
yes.
that way or feeling that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, what part of being Korean do you like the most?
Oh, that's a good question. I think for sure food nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Like externally, I think it's like food. But I think internally, Koreans have a lot of grit and they're very persistent. Most Koreans are like kind of built that way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's like an immigration thing, I'm not sure, but Koreans are very hardworking, grit, and all
Mm-hmm.
that. I think that side of me being Korean is like, I'm like very strongly proud of it. And I also think it had to be about like how you grew up too, because I moved around a lot. I always had to make sure I'm like very independent and like can just like fit in right away. Of course, it's hard, but you always have to put on that face to feel like, okay, I'm here, I can do this kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how I still feel, and it's kind of embedded in me in a way.
What is your least favorite part of being Korean?
Oh, the least favorite part. I don't know. I'm curious to hear what other people say.
Hmm.
I think one thing that I could think of right now is maybe it's more personal, like trying to do it all. I think one thing that hard or like not the best part of being Korean is always pushing your kids to do something well. And I try not to do that. So I want my girls to be very well-rounded and balanced. But I think a lot of parents are trying to always make sure they're good at something. But I don't know if that's like everybody else, like non-Koreans do that too, but I feel like Koreans are very like hard on their kids in
Yeah.
general,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I agree. Like and do well and do perfectly and
Yes, yes.
yeah.
You're giving the stress to the kid, but then you're also giving stress to yourself. So it becomes like a mess, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think having high expectations
Mm-hmm.
maybe is the right way to put it. Yeah.
Unrealistic high expectations.
Yes, yes, yes. Let's say that.
It's so interesting because the first generation Korean parents, when I talk to
Mm-hmm.
them, this is still like the big topic. How can I
Mm,
send my kids to the top schools? How can
yeah.
I do this and that? The more second generation you are, because you live through that with your parents, we're almost like, oh no, we're not pushing anything on
Yeah.
our children. It's like
Yeah.
almost to the extreme. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh no, we have no
No,
expectations. As long as they're happy, we're good.
happy. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I
Finding the
think
right balance is important.
it's very rare that I meet a second generation Korean American or Asian American
Hmm.
who says, "Oh no, I want my kids to like Tiger Mom."
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but then we have Amy Chua, so I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah.
hard.
Mm-hmm.
Parenting's the hardest part.
It is.
But
It is. And especially being a working mom.
yeah, for sure.
I mean, we do what we can, right? Like you said in the
Hmm.
beginning. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
It is what
for
it
sure.
is.
It is what it is.
And by the way, I wore
Hmm.
my flower brooch today for Rice
Rice ball.
Blossoms.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's so cute. That's pretty.
Yeah, yeah. I love your work. I mean, I know it's food and it's edible and it's to be consumed, right? But just looking at them is so beautiful.
Oh, thanks. Next time you're in New York, let me know. I would love to gift you some.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So, what is your plan for your business and your personal life?
Oh my goodness. Plans. So I used to love making plans, but I think as I get older every year, I try to not make plans. That's
Hmm.
the plan for me personally. I think just taking it day by day is my
Hmm.
plan.
Hmm.
I try not to set high goals anymore like I used to. Just because now my kids are getting older too. I mean, they're still young, but um, juggling a lot of things at once, like multitasking, is pretty difficult. Or I feel I take pride in doing it because I think I am pretty good at it compared to a lot of other people. But it's still hard and it takes a lot on me. So this year my goal is and plan was no plan for the first time, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest.
Mm-hmm.
Through Rice Blossoms, I think before I had all these like grand plans and goals that I wanted to achieve, but it's hard. And so instead of trying to like chase my dream, I think I'm maybe kind of adjusting my dream in a way to kind of fit it more into like my daily lifestyle more, if that makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
so just taking it day by day, having a healthy, mentally, physically healthy life or year has been my work and personal goal this year. So sorry, no ambitious goals for me to share this year.
No, that's a great goal. So far, so good. Going well so
Yes,
far.
I mean it's and I'm trying to say no more often, say
Mm,
no more because I was always okay, yes, yes, yes person,
mm,
but now I'm like
mm,
trying to be more of a no person this year
mm.
and kind of take it easy.
Why do you feel like you have to say no more?
Because with work, even though I always push the limit and just
Mm,
take on more to do more. And I hate saying no. That's just my personality. I love sharing
mm.
rice cakes to everybody. So I always feel really bad if I have to reject an order, for an
Oh, I
example.
see. For the business. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that too. And even like in the household with kids or like husband, house chores, I always try to do more than I actually have to sometimes
Mm-hmm.
because I have a husband, so he can do things too. um, that's another topic, but so and then it gets exhausting, and I get tired, and I get
Mm-hmm.
cranky, and then it's like it's more stress on myself, mentally and physically. So I'm learning to know more often. So
I say
that's
yes
my.
to that. Do you think that's the overachiever in us?
So
Yeah.
I think so,
Mm.
probably as a woman, as a mom, and also being the oldest, kind of all like combination of that
Yeah. Yeah.
personality. But
Then you know what they say, K 장녀.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm K
Yeah.
Changyo for sure.
Mm. Well, that's
Yeah.
great that you realize that and you're putting that to practice. I mean, you are already doing so much, and so it's
Oh
such
no,
beautiful work too. So,
thank you. Thank you.
congratulations on that.
No, thank you.
Yeah, learning to self care. Mm-hmm.
For
Mm-hmm.
sure. I'm probably not in the right position to like give advices or anything to other people, but from my experience, what I would say is that enjoy what you do and finding the right balance, like physically and mentally, personal life versus work life. I think finding the right balance is always really important, and it's something that you can always continue to learn as you go, and just like figuring things out as you go, and just never giving up is very important, I think. And for Rice Blossoms business, we do have some workshops coming up for March, April, and May. So just follow us on our social and hope to see you there one day.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was so much fun. 1.5 generation woman who is promoting a dog of all things.
Yes,
So it's really exciting, and I really support your work and encourage you
thank you
to
so much.
continue.
Thank you for talking with me today. And I hope just like listening and, just learning about another fellow Korean American
Hmm.
hopefully gave you some insights or was fun to listen to.
Yes, for sure. Definitely
Okay,
was.
thank you.
I'm excited to share.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer, for your time and
Well, thank
being
you for
here
doing this.
promoting your Rice Blossoms. Follow Rice Blossoms on
Yes.
social. Don't forget to like and comment and follow Rice Blossoms as well as Take 1.5 podcast. Your support really matters to us. Thanks for your time.